Tonight, new health concerns about the plume of toxic smoke coming from that Rockdale County chemical plant.
I had burning in my chest, sinuses, and eyes, shortness of breath, waking up, and not being able to breathe.
We have live Team 2 coverage on the health concerns and the new warning tonight from the EPD.
Live, local, late breaking. This is Channel 2 Action News at 6 p.m. Coverage you can count on.
If this chemical plume hasn't affected you yet, there's a chance it could, at least over the next day. Good evening. I'm Wsbtv in for Justin Farmer.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Linda Stouffer. State emergency agencies are warning that the wind could shift the plume of smoke to other parts of Metro Atlanta tomorrow. So let's get you to the very latest on this. The Georgia Department of Public Health working with Homeland Security and the Environmental Protection Division to monitor air quality levels.
Tests have already confirmed low levels of chlorine in the air around the biolab facility.
And today, workers are making progress neutralizing, as they call it, the smoke plume. Chief Meteorologist Brad Nitz is monitoring conditions and how they could affect the smoke plume. Channel 2's Audrey Washington is talking with someone who was hospitalized after being exposed. But we begin our live Team 2 coverage with Channel 2's Tom Regan. Tom, Georgia Poison Control has received now hundreds of calls from people who felt sick.
Yeah, that's right, Linda. The director of the Poison Center told me this afternoon that they have received something like 600 phone calls since this all began on Sunday. Take a look behind me. You can see that white chemical smoke is still coming out of the plant. We are being careful not to be downwind from this, and if it shifts, we'll definitely be getting out of the way. But at this point, right now, I'm not smelling any chlorine in the air. As you mentioned, workers, we're told, are making some headway at stopping the chemical reactions causing the plumes, but it seems they are still far from putting a cap on this.
As clouds of toxic fumes continue rising from the chemical plant, a short distance away, Colby Jackson and Wyatt Brooks are fixing trucks and ambulances in a repair shop. It's hard to ignore the stink of chlorine vapors.
Definitely can smell it and kind of get a little headache every now and then, but we're working through it, trying to just stay busy.
Colby also lives a short drive from the plant and the fire Sunday that set off runaway chemical reactions.
Yeah, there was ash on the ground. There's like pieces like foamy ash, blackened.
The biolab plant fire prompted the evacuation of 17,000. The fire is out and the evacuation order has been lifted. But chlorine chemicals used to make pool and spa treatment products are still reacting, and fumes produced by them are spreading further west. GEMA and the EPA say people across the metro area will likely wake up Thursday seeing haze and smelling chlorine.
It's kind of bad at times and off and on, you know, it's according to which way the wind's blowing.
The Georgia Poison Center tells us they've handled nearly 600 calls on people sickened by the plant fumes.
Coughing, wheezing, runny eyes, runny nose, difficulty breathing. Make sure you get those symptoms evaluated.
Lynn Ross says she's not just worried about her health, but her dogs as well.
And with my dogs, with us and my dogs, with all of our neighbors and everything, so everybody's had to pretty much stay in the house, stay inside and try to stay away from it.
Well, neither plant officials nor the fire department have identified what caused this fire. BioLab released a statement a couple of days ago saying, in part, its top priority is community safety, but representatives thus far have declined to give interviews. Live in Rockdale County, Tom Regan, Channel 2 Action News.
People who live there want more answers, more clarity on exactly what they're breathing in. Tom, thank you. Yeah. Here's a live look at Stone Mountain in DeKalb County, one area that could feel the effects of the smoke plume tomorrow. Continuing our live Team 2 coverage, Chief Meteorologist Brad Nitz in Severe Weather Center 2. Brad.
Yeah, a lot of air quality measurements happening around the site right now, and I went through the data from the overnight hours last night when the wind went calm and that smoke and those chemicals just kind of settled in. I found two locations that got above action levels where irritation begins. One near I-20 in Conyers. Chlorine was measured at 11 parts per million. 0.5 parts per million is at action level, so it was 20 times higher than that overnight last night. And then the second location, North Main Street, the oxygen concentration in the air dropped to about 14%. Typically, Our atmosphere is 21% oxygen, and the average concentration through the night was down around 18%. So that's impactful. Now, a temperature inversion setting up again tonight. That's warm, stable air above, stacked higher up in the atmosphere, cooler air near the ground. So the air stagnates, the pollutants get trapped, and then tomorrow, light winds out of the east to southeast through the day is going to blow that plume of chemicals back into the heart of Metro Atlanta. It's a different wind direction. Different areas are going to be affected, and you'll likely smell that across parts of the city in Metro Atlanta tomorrow. More in your local forecast coming up.
Because of the chemicals in the air, Rockdale County is now recommending a shelter in place again tonight, starting at 7 o'clock. The chemicals released in the fire include chlorine, chloramine, and bromine. These compounds are used in spa and pool treatment products. And Georgia Emergency Management says some of these chemicals can be toxic. Exposure can cause blurred vision, burning in the nose, throat and lungs, nausea, vomiting, and difficulty breathing. Children, the elderly, and people with asthma are most at risk. If you smell chemicals in the air, GEMA says the best way to protect yourself is to stay indoors with your AC off. A reminder, if you have any of these symptoms and you are not sure whether you should seek medical care, you can call the Georgia Poison Control Center. The number 404-856-6252, 404-856-6252.
And tonight, a Rockdale County man says he is one of the people who got sick from exposure to the chemicals. He was even hospitalized. Channel 2's Audrey Washington is live at the health department for Gwinnett, Newton, and Rockdale counties in Lawrenceville to find out how they're tracking the sick calls. Audrey.
Well, health professionals here told me that they are getting reports from the Georgia Poison Center. Now, earlier today, I did speak with the man in Rockdale County. He told me that he experienced a burning sensation in his chest, as well as itchy, burning eyes, and a collection of fluid in his lungs.
Today's diagnosis, exposure to a biological agent.
Andy Owen says he wasn't surprised when he received the doctor's report.
Acute sinusitis, unspecified, another specified bacteria agent as the cause of disease.
Andy lives and works near the biolab facility in Rockdale County. He tells me just a few days after that massive fire sent a plume of smoke into the air, he started to feel sick.
I had burning in my chest, and sinuses, and eyes, coughing up yellow phlegm.
Andy says after the fire, he stayed inside, but says when officials lifted the shelter-in-place order, he returned to work.
I was there for about 2 hours and had to leave because I couldn't stop coughing. And
there may be other chemicals in this cloud as well.
Dr. Jane Morgan has not treated Andy, but says prolonged exposure to the chemicals in the fire could cause health complications.
Chest pain or chest tightness, a little difficulty breathing, and even a mild buildup of fluid in the lungs.
Wednesday, I asked health workers with the Gwinnett, Newton, and Rockdale health departments if they're working on a database to better monitor exposed people who become sick. A representative wrote in part that they are working with health professionals and, quote, our agency receives de-identified information about symptomatic individuals who call Georgia Poison Control as well. The health department does not have a registry.
We don't know the long-term effects of it. So right now, my main concern is getting better and being able to get back to work.
Now, anyone who was exposed and are, experiencing some symptoms, they are asked to please call the health department or the Georgia Poison Center. And we are live here in Gwinnett County. Audrey Washington, Channel 2 Action News.
And you can count on Channel 2 Action News to keep searching for answers as we bring you continuing coverage on the chemical fire in Rockdale County. We'll bring you new developments here on air and at Wsbtv.com.
New at 6, a drug house once raided 11 times is now a police officer's home. In 2016, a house in southeast Atlanta was a scene of a murder and also the focus of Atlanta police and Channel 2 Action News investigations. Well, now things are different. Channel 2 investigative reporter Mark Winnie is back at 730 Dill Avenue under very, very different circumstances. Mark.
And this house is so different than when I was here in 2016. The Atlanta Police Foundation says 730 Dill Avenue used to be a crack house, but Tuesday there was an open house here.
This is a huge change. That officer moving in will dramatically change the area. Atlanta Police, search warrant! 730 Dill.
Old narcotics out on a search warrant at 730 Dill.
We've hit that location 11 times.
I'm so tired of seeing you. Why?
Narcotic search warrants.
Is this a drug house? Is this a crack house?
Not that I know of, sir.
Jeff Canton says when we interviewed him as part of our investigation in 2016 into 730 Dill Avenue, he was a lieutenant commanding the Atlanta Police Narcotics Unit, which had investigated 730 Dill Avenue hard.
The 11 search warrants. Bought drugs out of that location, and then somebody was murdered at that location.
But then now he is Major Canton, commander of the APD unit that oversees community outreach and housing, including APD's end of the Atlanta Police Foundation's Secure Neighborhoods program, which puts officers inside homes in challenged neighborhoods, and that job involves 730 Dill Avenue too, because an officer is moving in there.
Basically look out for his neighbors.
He says back in the day his frustration peaked when, before the 11th search warrant, Vincent Sanders was murdered there.
I did not go inside the house to hurt anyone.
From our 2016 report, a prosecutor says Kevin Pate pled guilty to murder, 30 years to serve, non-parolable.
You have smoked crack inside 730 Dill Avenue.
I smoked crack, that's what it is.
Hundreds of times.
Hundreds.
A prosecutor says ultimately the Fulton County District Attorney's Office got a judge to order 730 Dill Avenue forfeited, taken from the owner. Canton says the property was turned over to a land bank to hold for the police foundation, which renovated it for an officer who gets a really good deal on the house and agrees to stay there 5 years and more.
As we go to community meetings around the city, especially here in Capitol View, overwhelmingly the residents ask for more officers to live in their community.
Now no one's calling the police about that location. There's the police living in that location right there.
The number one reason we do this is the impact to the community itself.
This was considered a problem location for this neighborhood. Now the neighbors look at it as this is where the officer lives in our neighborhood.
Now, Tokisha Charles, I spoke with her by phone with the Atlanta Police Foundation. I'm told 35 APD officers are living in homes in select neighborhoods as part of the Secure Neighborhoods program. She says they commit to staying there 5 years and during that time perform 10 hours of community service each month and in return get a $500 a month stipend. She says officers buy the homes at cost and get up to $60,000 in down payment assistance, and the foundation is looking for more properties and builders to partner with them. Reporting live, Mark Winnie, Channel 2 Action News.
Coming up, I'll take you through the changing wind direction that will affect where that chemical cloud goes and weather on the way. Potential tropical development in the Gulf of Mexico, that timing and impacts in the southeast U.S. Straight ahead.
Vice President Kamala Harris surveys Helene damage in Georgia. Her words for survivors and the federal response.
Thank you. A death investigation underway near Lake Somerset Crest in Cobb County. What officers are telling us about the discovery there, next. Now, a developing story. A fisherman discovered a body in Cobb County. Now, police are trying to figure out what happened. Channel 2 Cobb County Bureau Chief Michelle Newell was the only reporter at the scene when we broke this story at noon. Michelle's live from Lake Somerset Crest. Neighbors are shaken up tonight. Michelle.
Linda, this is actually a really quiet neighborhood. The most you'll see is people walking their dogs or fishing right here at this lake. But police rushed here this morning after someone found a body. I spoke with a neighbor off camera. He told me he stepped outside his house and smelled a really strong odor. He had no idea what was going on.
I've lived here for about 17, 18 years.
In all the years Elizabeth Massey has called this neighborhood home, she's never stumbled across something like this. Police scattered throughout this wooded area. Their cruisers lined up and down the street, yellow tape blocking off the scene of an investigation tied to someone's death.
I was going for my walk, and I had initially heard there was something going on, and so I thought I'd walk down there, but then when I turned the corner, I didn't realize it was so close to the house, so my stomach kind of immediately dropped.
Police say they got a call Wednesday morning. Someone found a body at Lake Somerset Crest. News Shopper 2 was above just as the investigation began. On the ground, police cruisers and dive teams took over a homeowner's driveway. I asked police if they suspect foul play. They told me they're still investigating. One thing that is sure is how concerning this kind of scene is for the families who live here.
The questions I would like to know, honestly, it was just like, is it anybody in our community here in our neighborhood?
Yeah, so homicide investigators, they were out here, but they told me that's normal for this kind of incident. Still so much to learn about this investigation. Of course, we'll keep you updated. Live from Cobb County, Michelle Newell, Channel 2 Action News.
Tonight, 3 people are in jail after the discovery of a large meth lab in Cobb County. Just look for yourself. Officials said they seized 500 kilos of meth at a home on Pear Road in Marietta last night.
This is what we normally find in the jungles of Mexico and not in a neighborhood in Marietta with at least a dozen schools within a couple miles circumference, including an elementary school 4/10 of a mile away from the house.
The DEA says more arrests could be made because this is an ongoing investigation.
And an autopsy shows Atlanta rapper Rich Homie Quan died from an accidental drug overdose. The report from the Fulton County Medical Examiner says the rapper, whose real name was DeQuantis Devontae Lamar, had 4 drugs in his system, including fentanyl and codeine. Lamar was 34. His girlfriend found him unresponsive in their Southwest Atlanta home last month.
Advocates are demanding action after the Department of Justice admitted Georgia state prisons are unsafe and out of control. They want changes before more incarcerated people are killed or assaulted. New at 6, Channel 2's Taisha Fernandez live for us now in Midtown with the reason, Taisha, why one man says you should actually care about this.
And George, that convicted felon who has served 10 years in prison is now Dr. Travis Barber. He's been working hard for the last 5 years to bring attention to what the U.S. attorneys finally documented yesterday. But he said talking about these issues is not enough.
My thing is, what are you going to do next?
Dr. Travis Barber served 10 years in prison for aggravated assault and another 10 years on parole. He said he has been through 9 of Georgia state prisons and said he has seen or experienced all of the injustices these U.S. attorneys talked about Tuesday. The Department of Justice finished an 8-year-long investigation and said all 34 Georgia state prisons have inhumane conditions, rampant crime, and prison staff covering it up.
We uncovered long-standing systemic violations stemming from complete indifference and disregard to the safety and security of people Georgia holds in its prisons. People are assaulted, stabbed, raped, and killed.
Our findings reveal that the leadership at the Georgia Department of Corrections has lost control of its facilities.
Dr. Barber has been talking about this publicly for the last 5 years.
The judicial system is a well-funded machine that's misran.
Will these state prisons ever get better?
If they take the right steps, and that's with a total lockdown and reclassify all of these men and women and put them in the right groups and get some programs where these people can come back out and start a life with a decent pay.
Dr. Barber said one of the main problems is inmates convicted of something like drunk driving or stealing cars are sharing cells with people who are doing life for murder, and that just does not match. He said that misclassification is what keeps the cycle going. I reached out to the Justice Department today asking about action. I'm still waiting to hear back. We'll stay on this story. We're live in Midtown. Taisha Fernandez, Channel 2 Action News.
New at 6, an attempted sexual assault on a stroke victim at Grady Hospital. Why the suspect arrested told police he targeted the victim.
We're also finding out why people across the country are panic buying toilet paper. Plus.
And I'm Zach Klein, live in San Diego, just a few hours away from Game 2 of this series against the Padres. The Braves needed a win to keep their season going. So how does the offense get going? I spoke with Ozzie Albies 30 minutes ago, and he will tell you next. Hey, greetings from San Diego, California. I am Channel 2 Sports Director Zach Klein. We're coming to you live tonight from Petco Park. It is Game 2 of this best-of-3 wild card series between the Braves and San Diego Padres, and it is very simple for your Braves. Win tonight, you keep the season alive. You can play tomorrow. A loss, and this 2024 Brave season comes to a close. Right now on the field behind me, it is the Padres getting loose. They are taking some batting practice. The Braves scheduled to take BP at 6:50 tonight. Now the Braves will turn this evening to California native Max Fried, who was originally drafted by the Padres back in 2014. With Chris Sale out with back spasms, Fried is the ace of the staff and now facing elimination. He knows he has to be at his best against the hottest team in baseball.
At the end of the day, you got to go out there and step between the lines and compete. And it doesn't really matter
who's on the other side, who's a favorite or underdog. You got to go out there and win the game.
Oh, all the confidence in the world. You know, he's been in big games like this. He steps up in big games like this, and there's no one else we'd rather want him to know.
It's big knowing that we have Max coming off a great start in a big game, obviously, and so it's good to have a guy with Max's experience in the postseason to lean on.
Now, obviously, Max Fried can throw a complete game shutout, but as we know, if the Braves do not score, they do not win. Last night, they were held scoreless in Game 1 against the Padres. In the heart of that order, batters 2 through 5 went a combined 4 for 16 with 9 strikeouts. Those 4 batters had 9 strikeouts, while the Padres and its team had 5 Ks last night. Now, within the last 30 minutes, I spoke with second baseman Ozzie Albies and asked him how the offense gets going tonight.
Keep battling and stay aggressive. That's all we can do because, we had a great performance of King yesterday, but today's a new day. We got to go and battle again.
That's what they got to do. Hopefully the Braves can get on the board early and silence what is expected to be another sellout crowd here at Petco Park. Some 50,000 strong. Again, Braves need a win to keep playing, keep the season alive, and force a third and decisive game. If not, their season comes to an end. We're live at Petco Park. Game 2 of this wild card series, Braves and Padres. I'm Zach Klein, Channel 2 Action News. Brad.
All right, Zach, sunshine there and here, a light north wind. I'll show you when it turns and blows some of that smoke and chemicals back to the city next.
Vice President Kamala Harris got an update on the storm recovery in Georgia today, and Channel 2 Action News was the only local TV station in Augusta during her visit.
A woman hit and killed along this highway in Gwinnett County during what was Hurricane Helene, and the driver never stopped.
It's very hard for me to come here to Atlanta and instead of visiting her, that I had to come and pick her body up.
Why the victim's family says she did not have to die.
A mix of sun and clouds today. A lot of sunshine. Actually got to the mid-80s. Here's a live look from the top of Stone Mountain in DeKalb County. And DeKalb County, one of the areas that I expect you're going to be able to see some of the smoke and smell, in particular the chlorine from that fire that's been burning in Conyers and Rockdale County, because the wind changing direction and speed a little bit. So let me take you through that. Right now, the wind calm in Atlanta, but in general, a light northerly wind through the day today, and that's going to change. Let me show you the wind as we head into tomorrow morning. Very light, if not calm. But importantly, look at this. You look at the map and you see the arrows, the wind direction. So coming out of the east and then southeast as we head through the day. So that means the smoke and those chemicals here in Rockdale County going to be blown back into DeKalb, parts of Gwinnett, Fulton County, and the city of Atlanta potentially. And so we'll see that plume spread across the heart of the metro area. And I expect that many of us are going to be able to see and definitely smell some of that tomorrow. In the morning, potentially, and certainly into the afternoon as that wind picks up a little bit. So here's the precautions. If you smell it, stay indoors. Close the windows and doors, of course, and turn off ventilation. In particular, I'm talking about exhaust fans that take the room air and blow it outside, like in your kitchen or your bathrooms, because that air that you blow outside is replaced in your home by usually leaks around windows and doors. So you want to shut that off while we've got those chemicals outside. Now, forecast morning lows down into the low to mid 60s as the temperatures cool off and the air becomes calm. It becomes stagnant, and so we'll see that cloud there over Rockdale County just kind of sit and spread, then back towards the west as we head into the low to mid 80s tomorrow. We're still dealing with this, but I also want to show you what's going on in the tropics. Very active. We have Hurricane Kirk out in the central Atlantic, no threat to land. New tropical depression number 13 headed same kind of general direction, no threat to land. And then moving towards the Gulf of Mexico, still at about a 40% chance at something there, a disturbance, a depression or stronger develops, but down to our south. So through the end of the week, just a few clouds, a 20% chance of a stray shower locally on Friday. And then whatever manages to develop, and it'll be slow to do so through the weekend, will stay to our south. Good news there. We'll keep our eyes on it through the weekend into early next week. Your 5-day forecast with the weekend always in view. We'll have high temperatures near 80 the next few days with a mix of sun and clouds. Stray shower possible Friday, but otherwise dry, and into next week, highs in the low 80s.
Brad, thank you. Tonight, we're staying on top of the latest after Hurricane Helene. President Biden will visit Georgia tomorrow to survey storm damage. He was in South Carolina today.
Crews are working 24 hours a day to restore power to hundreds of thousands of storm victims in Georgia.
Also today, Governor Brian Kemp announced residents of 41 counties affected by Hurricane Helene are now eligible to apply for disaster assistance.
And for people who can't return home, the Postal Service is asking them to file for a change of address or a delivery hold.
And as the storm recovery continues, more state and national leaders are traveling into those hard-hit areas. Today, Vice President Kamala Harris was in Augusta. Former President Donald Trump's daughter-in-law was in Cobb County at a food bank, and Governor Brian Kemp got an update on the recovery today as well. Channel 2's Richard Elliott was in Augusta for the vice president's visit.
This is some of the damage just around the Augusta airport. The vice president landed here Wednesday afternoon, and some onlookers are hoping she can help.
Our fence got torn down and some of our roof is messed up.
Channel 2 Action News was the only Atlanta station at the airport as Air Force 2 touched down in Augusta Wednesday. Harris stepped out of the plane and was greeted by Senator John Ossoff along with Augusta's mayor. Buchanan hopes she can help.
We still don't have power in our house. Our water pipe was broken, so we had to get that fixed too.
Moments after landing, Harris took her motorcade through Augusta, still reeling after Hurricane Helene. Her first stop, the Richmond County Emergency Management Office.
I think it really does represent some of the best of what we each know can be done, especially when we coordinate around local, state, and federal resources to meet the needs of people who must be seen, must be heard. These are very difficult times.
We spoke exclusively one-on-one with Harris Tuesday as she talked about the federal response, a day after her Republican rival, Donald Trump, toured some of the damage in Valdosta, urging people to donate or volunteer to help. Harris told me they're doing what they can to get critical resources into Georgia.
And so we've got, boots on the ground in Georgia. There has been a big effort that we have made to make sure that we get food, water, and generators to folks who need that after the hurricane.
The White House is announcing President Biden will also be coming to Georgia to tour this damage on Thursday. In Augusta, I'm Richard Elliott, Channel 2 Action News.
A Gwinnett County church sent much-needed supplies to storm victims in Augusta. People brought bottled water, tarps, battery chargers, and more to the North Georgia Conference of the United Methodist Church in Duluth.
There was an older lady that came with a small case. Say it's not much. Say it's going to be a lot for somebody.
It sure will be. A truck with supplies arrived in Augusta earlier this week. Church officials say they'll continue helping out as long as there is need.
WSB's Convoy of Care is loading up to help those hurt by Hurricane Helene. You'll meet some of the good folks contributing to this cause.
Someone hit and killed this woman along a Gwinnett County highway and kept on going. But police say the driver did leave a clue behind.
People dying from drug overdoses is dropping nationwide. New at 6, the efforts leading to the positive change.